The Chinese Communist Party drew fierce backlash from domestic netizens after the regime's internal security apparatus committed a huge gaffe on Weibo, the mainland's version of Twitter, when comparing widespread funeral pyres in pandemic-stricken India to the April 29 launch of the Wayward Long March 5B rocket. On May 1st, the CCP's notorious Political and Legal Affairs Commission, PLAC, posted on its official China Chang'an Net Weibo account a side-by-side picture of cremation workers in India burning the bodies of those who perished in the COVID-19 pandemic against the April 29 launch of the latest Long March 5B rocket, which carried the 22.5-ton Tianhe Heavenly Harmony unmanned space station module into space. The PLAC's post had the words written in Chinese, "Lighting a fire in China versus lighting a fire in India," followed by a hashtag commenting on how India's COVID-19 positive test rate now exceeded 400,000 per day. According to Chinese language media outlet Dajiwan, the Ministry of Public Security also made similar posts mocking India's plight on Weibo. All such posts were deleted on May 1st. DJY says Chinese netizens were not shy in mocking the post despite the country's heavy internet censorship. One user flamed the party committee directly. As the official Weibo of the Chinese Political and Legal Committee News, "Your remarks are really embarrassing. Don't you have basic humanistic care?" While others said they reported the post to Weibo for promoting hatred and regional discrimination. Another netizen apologised to India on behalf of the Chinese people. "China Chang'an Net does not represent the Chinese people. I hope that the Indian people will be free of COVID-19 as soon as possible," they said. When Bloomberg challenged the CCP's foreign ministry for comment on the controversy, the ministry simply sidestepped the issue. "We hope everyone gives attention to the Chinese government and mainstream public opinion supporting India's fight against the epidemic, while promising to send more pandemic aid to India." After the Long March 5B rocket delivered the Heavenly Harmony module to the Chinese space station, which will become its living quarters, the 21-ton core quickly entered a temporary orbit and will become one of the largest uncontrolled re-entries ever. Space News explained why this is unusual behaviour for a rocket core. Most expendable rocket first stages do not reach orbital velocity and re-enter the atmosphere and land in a predefined re-entry zone. Some other larger second stages perform deorbit burns to lower altitude to reduce time in orbit and lower chances of collisions with other spacecraft, or to immediately re-enter the atmosphere. They said the core was expected to attempt an active manoeuvre to deorbit itself, which did not happen. During an April 29 press conference, Commander-in-Chief of the launch vehicle, Wang Jui, only said the second Long March 5B had seen improvements over the first launch, but did not speak of any deorbiting attempts. "What's bad is that it's really negligent on China's part. Things more than 10 tons, we don't let them fall out of the sky uncontrolled deliberately," said Jonathan McDowell, an astrophysicist at Harvard University, to The Guardian. The core appeared to be tumbling and out of control, according to a Japanese Twitter post of an amateur ground observation showing the orbiting object. The plummeting Chinese rocket core is now the largest man-made object to fall towards Earth since the United Soviet Socialist Republic's Salyut 7 in 1991. That scrap weighed 39 tons. The core has been named 2021-035B by the US military and can be tracked at orbit.ing-now.com. As of the evening of May 5th, the debris tracked at travelling at more than 28,000 kilometres per hour and at an ever-falling altitude of approximately 191 kilometres. It's not the first rodeo for Communist China's space team, playing with a large object on an uncontrolled re-entry. In May of 2020, debris from an earlier Long March 5B rocket landed on 2 villages in the Ivory Coast. That rocket core weighed 18 tonnes. McDowell said of the previous 5B crash, most of it burnt up, but there were these enormous pieces of metal that hit the ground. "We are very lucky no one was hurt." The rocket is expected to crash into Earth on May 10, plus or minus 2 days. Based on its velocity, it could land as far north as Beijing, Madrid or New York, and anywhere as far south as Chile or New Zealand. McDowell is optimistic, however. He says because the Earth is 71% composed of ocean, statistics are on society's side. Taiwanese chip behemoth TSMC is gearing up to build several additional production facilities in Arizona in order to satisfy US demand at the government's request, say anonymous sources familiar with the matter. 3 anonymous sources told Reuters that as many as 5 additional fabrication plants are in the works at the Arizona site. Last month, TSMC's board announced plans to invest $100 billion over the next 3 years to expand production capacity, compelled by an unprecedented shortage of chips rippling across the global auto and electronic markets. One of Reuters' sources told the outlet 6 fabrication facilities would be built at the direct bequest of the United States. The sources could not give a time frame for when construction would begin or could be completed. However, another of Reuters' sources said TSMC bought plenty of land for additional facilities when they purchased the land for the main plant. A third source attested TSMC told them 6 additional facilities would be built over the next 3 years. During an April earnings call, TSMC CEO C.C. Wei only confirmed the known production plant. However, he did confirm his company had purchased a large piece of land in Arizona to provide flexibility. So further expansion is possible, but we will ramp up to Phase 1 first, then based on the operation efficiency and cost economics and also the customer's demand to decide what the next steps we are going to do. Once there is any official decision, we will disclose it accordingly, added Wei. US Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo said during an appearance at an America's Society event on May 4 that the US is on the hunt to onshore domestic production in a number of sectors in a bid to move away from reliance on Chinese Communist Party-made goods. Raimondo said currently the US is making 0% of leading-edge chips in the United States and that's a problem. We ought to be making 30% because that matches our demand. It is definitely the case that we have to reshore much of our supply chain, she said. She added that her administration is pressuring TSMC to allot more supply to American automakers who are struggling with a major chip shortage. We're working hard to see if we can get the Taiwanese and TSMC, which is a big company there, to prioritise the needs of our auto companies, since there's so many American jobs on the line, she said. Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing company, the largest chip maker in the world, already unveiled plans in May of 2020 to build a $12 billion factory in Arizona to produce high-tech chips on American soil. The May announcement came after former President Donald Trump's administration pushed to create a renaissance in American manufacturing and a shift away from reliance on made-in-China goods. The project's construction began this year and is expected to result in a single fully operational production plant by 2024. The main branch of the Arizona facility is projected to build a modest 20,000 silicon wafers per month using the firm's most sophisticated 5-nanometer technology. Each wafer contains thousands of individual chips. TSMC currently manufactures most of its chips in Taiwan but has older production facilities in both China and Washington. Some of the loudest voices in the scientific community alleging the SARS-CoV-2 pandemic did not originate from the Chinese Communist Party's only biosecurity Level 4 lab, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, are also ones with documented conflicts of interest. A number of experts, many who have been handed substantial grants by the US government, teamed up with the WIV's infamous Batwoman, Shi Zhengli, to perform gain-of-function research on coronaviruses. Perhaps the most notorious conflict of interest is that of World Health Organization investigator Peter Daszak and his Ego Health Alliance, which has received millions of dollars in funding from the US government. Before the investigation began and throughout the earliest days of the pandemic, Daszak decreed insinuations that the virus originated from WIV and was outspoken against the Trump administration. The conflicts of interest around the WHO's March trip were so egregious that the Wall Street Journal editorial board published a February 15 article entitled "Who are the COVID investigators?", where Daszak was called out by name. One prominent member of the WHO team is zoologist Peter Daszak, also part of the Lancet COVID-19 Commission. Mr. Daszak has vowed to investigate with an open mind and not be bound by preconceived ideas, said the editorial. WSJ cited emails obtained by the US non-profit group Right to Know, which they said showed Mr. Daszak long ago made up his mind about the lab leak theory as he worked to organise a now-decreed statement published in medical journal The Lancet, which condemns so-called conspiracy theories suggesting that COVID-19 does not have a natural origin. In an August 2020 article published in Nature, the journal ensured that there was no mistake of Daszak and EcoHealth's connection to Xi and the WIV to carry out its research. EcoHealth Alliance partners with the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China, said the article, which also pointed out Daszak has been collaborating with Batwoman for more than 15 years. The pair were given a 2014 grant by the National Institute of Health to collect bat samples. On April 16, animal rights advocacy group White Coat Waste Project revealed Daszak and EcoHealth not only received more than $9 million in grants from the Departments of Defense and Health and Human Services in 2020 alone, but received two separate Paycheck Protection Plan bailouts amounting to nearly $1.5 million combined from US taxpayers. Meanwhile, investigative reporter Cheryl Atkinson found from EcoHealth 2018 IRS filings, the organisation received millions in funding from US agencies and $900,000 from vaccine manufacturer Johnson & Johnson. Daszak spoke with Vincent Racaniello on episode 615 of This Week in Virology, where he discussed conducting surveillance of bats in southern China. Daszak said they found over 100 new SARS-related coronaviruses, very close to SARS. Some of them get into human cells in the lab. Some of them can cause SARS disease in humanized mice models and are untreatable with therapeutics, and you can't vaccinate against them with a vaccine. The video was posted on May 18, 2020 on YouTube and May 19, 2020 on the TWIV website. However, both Taiwan News and Gateway Pundit maintain that the interview was originally filmed on December 9, 2019 at the Nipah Virus International Conference in Singapore, shortly before the pandemic first broke out in Wuhan. Gateway Pundit claims a copy was posted in May 2020. In his interview with TWIV, Daszak said of the coronavirus family, "You can manipulate them in the lab pretty easily. The spike protein drives a lot of what happens with the coronavirus zoonotic risk." He then mentioned his work with Ralph Barrick and the University of North Carolina. "So you can get the sequence, you can build the protein, and we worked with Ralph Barrick at UNC to do this, insert in the backbone of another virus and do some work in the lab." All of this culminated into creating a vaccine against a coronavirus causing a SARS-like disease. Now, the logical progression for vaccines is if you are going to develop a vaccine for SARS, people are going to use pandemic SARS, but let's try to insert these other related diseases and get a better vaccine, said Daszak. An example of another case is NBC contributor and founder of Tricorder Health, Joseph Fair. In March of 2020, Fair used Twitter to fire shots at former President Donald Trump while defending the Chinese Institute. "Stop blaming China, Obama and everyone else," he said in one post. In another tweet from his iPhone, Fair also claimed the first conspiracy theory was that this was released from a lab in China. "I respectfully disagree with you." President Trump called it that despite his own CDC and HHS directors saying it's incorrect. In 2013, Fair attended the WIV at the invitation of Shi Zhengli, researcher of the Institute, according to the lab's English website. Fair's Twitter account also has a history of lauding WIV scientists as collaborators, colleagues and friends. He said, "I've very much enjoyed working with them over the years and praised Xi's team for openness with regards to sharing data. Another outspoken professional is Ian Lipkin, who told CBS in a March 27, 2021 article that there was no evidence SARS-CoV-2 was laboratory-created. Like Joseph Fair, Lipkin also attended the WIV in 2015 as an ally of Batwoman. According to the Institute's website, which said Lipkin had given an excellent report on small game hunting, which was presided by Professor Xingli Shi, to the teachers and students in our institute. Lipkin was also promoted by CCP propaganda organs Global Times and CGTN. He boasted to CGTN, "I have so many friends in China, in universities and in government that I can help people to talk to one another and work together," while Global Times ran a promotional article headlining Lipkin entitled, "Renowned epidemiologist Walter Lipkin lauds China's transparent and professional approach against coronavirus outbreak" on March 2, 2020. In a third case, Elodie Gedden appeared on 60 Minutes in May of 2020, attempting to debunk the lab leak theory. Gedden had been a plenary speaker at the WIV's Viral Infection and Immune Response Conference held in Wuhan City in 2016.